All right, good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you are sharing the link to this live. It's 6 p.m. and we are about to start. Welcome. For those of you joining, feel free to drop your name and location in the chat. Welcome. Of course, my mom is always logged on early. Hello, mommy. Welcome, welcome. Remember to share the live with your friends. Hi, Gail. Good evening. Welcome to Focus on Her Live. Hello, Auntie Joanne. Welcome all the way over in Toronto, Canada. I'm excited. So we'll just wait about 3 more minutes to have everyone logged on and then we'll make a start. Good evening, everyone. For those of you logging in, welcome, welcome. For those of you joining us for the very first time, welcome to Team Focus. Hopefully you will have a great evening with us. We have a lot in store for you, so I'm excited. Let me know where you're joining in from. Post your flag, post your location, say hello. For those of you on YouTube, welcome. Those of you on Facebook, thank you for joining in. Wait. 1.5 minutes to go. Share the live, share the link, Facebook, YouTube link, send it to your friends on WhatsApp, on Instagram, text it to them, especially the women. You all need to hear what we have in store for you this evening. So share the live. I can see more people logging on. Hi, everyone. Let us know where you're joining from. All right, the countdown is on. So welcome again to those just logging in. You are right on time. You're not late. Happy to see you all. Again, let us know where you are logging in from. Welcome, Martha. Logging in from St. Joseph. Nice to see you on. All right, so this is the first episode of Focus on Her Live for 2022, and I'm so excited that every one of you could join us. This year, we have something different in store for you. We want to put on a well rounded package, especially for women and girls. Thank you to the gentlemen who are always logged on with us. Today, we have something big in store for you. I do have a special guest with me. Before I introduce her, I just want to remind you that this is just one episode out of our Focus on Her series, Let's Talk About. And for those of you joining us for the very first time, the Let's Talk About series is an extension of my online magazine. It's a discussion forum and a safe space for women to share knowledge on topics of interest, women's health, lifestyle, career, relationships, everything. So if you haven't already, head over to focusonher.net and see what we have in store for you. Today we have a very interesting topic. Let's talk about the pandemic versus your purse. And I have a special guest with me. Her name is Luana Laurent. She's the founder and CEO of Finance Focus Consultancy, a financial literacy company in Dominica which teaches and coaches individuals and entrepreneurs money management. She's also an examiner by profession at the Financial Services Unit in the Ministry of Finance and has been in the position from June 2017. Luana has over 10 years experience in public tax and accounting. She holds a Master of Science in International Finance and a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting. She's currently pursuing her CAM certification in Anti-Money Laundering. And more exciting news, she actually just launched her website, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that. So welcome, Luana. I am super excited to have you.
Thank you, Sabra. It's a pleasure to be here. Good evening to our listeners, to all our followers. It's really a pleasure to be here.
All right. So before we jump into it, because we have a lot to talk about, tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about what you do and why you love it so much.
I love teaching. I love making change in people's lives. And one of the most effective changes we can make is managing our money. We all we all experience challenges with managing money. We're going to be spending money until the day we die. And I figured, why not merge that passion for teaching and something as powerful as money together? And I recently launched my website, myfinancefocus.com, where I will share a lot of information and tips and tricks on how to manage money, manage your business performance, you name it. So go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter where you will get exclusive access to board tips and tricks on how to focus on your finance.
All right. So, this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic has really done a number on most, if not all of us financially. And I thought, who better to have on this episode than you? And we really want to jump in to discuss creative ways that we could stretch our dollars during these hard economic times, as Dominicans would say. And I hear people always talking about financial independence, financial freedom. What exactly does that entail?
So before we actually get into the definition, I wanted us to have some perspective, especially for the women as to where we are when it comes to money. So I was reading a research paper the other day, and it stated that on average, women are paid less, making about 20% less than men working full time. And guys, this is important for you to know as well. So pay attention. About a third of working women can't meet an unexpected expense within 30 days. And one in five women fall into poverty because of divorce. Another set of tips that I saw were that 80% of women are more likely to face poverty after age 65 because we have the retirement savings as men. But don't get down on all these doom and gloom tips. There's a positive side. And I also saw some positive facts as well. COVID 19 has fueled the surge of women entrepreneurs. And a Fidelity study cited that women perform better than men when it comes to investing. Also, too, women already control most of the financial decisions in our homes. We control 90% of the family spending, and we make up 85% of consumer purchases. Now, when we bring all of that together, we can ask ourselves, with all of these facts that are circulating around women and money, can we still build financial independence, financial freedom, even while facing a pandemic? And financial independence in itself include enjoying some of our hard-earned money today while designated a portion of our income for our future happiness. It's that simple. It means getting value for our money that we won't have to work so hard to get. And yes, we can build financial freedom and financial independence during a pandemic. It just depends on how we plan, the right the right planning.
That those were some interesting things, like women making up what, 85% of the financial decisions in the home. I
Yeah.
actually did not know that. So we do play an important role when it comes to
Yeah.
money and finances. So I think this is a great topic to discuss this evening. So how do we develop financial confidence as women, seeing that we're responsible for so much?
Well, again, the challenges that we've faced during this pandemic, we cannot deny that they've been real, but we can surmount them with the right planning. And the key to do that is by developing financial confidence. How can we as women, like you say, develop financial confidence? In my experience, many women don't feel empowered financially to even consider financial planning. And to begin a journey of financial empowerment, I want to share 5 numbers I believe that we as women need to know in order to increase our financial confidence. And Sabra, I like to get practical. So I will give something that we can actually use to improve our situation. So, of the 5 numbers to improve our financial confidence, I want to highlight spending and savings. Some women don't know their monthly spending and savings. And again, because we make up so much of the spending decisions in the home, money comes, money goes. So, we don't take the time to understand our numbers because that essentially builds on everything. So, I like to recommend starting at the simplest level. I want us to take a look at last year's credit card statements or bank statements, and what you find there will drive the basis of the next 4 numbers that I'm going to share that can build our self confidence, our financial confidence. So remember the first one, our spending and saving numbers. The second one is our net worth. How many of you know your net worth? Sabra, do you know your net worth?
I'm just wondering. I
I
think I need
remember
to consult with you.
I remember when I calculated mine and all I saw was negative numbers. I was distraught. But have no fear. Your net worth in itself is the total of assets, that is what you own, minus the total liabilities, which is what you owe. And as women, we need to track this number. So, when we hear Jeff Bezos is worth $1 billion, we need to know what we're worth as well. You know? So,
Agreed.
if you aren't tracking your network, if you've never done that, now is the best time to start to get to know where you're starting at in January. You might be missing opportunities to pay down debt because you don't know how much debt you owe. Now, ideally, when it comes to your net worth, you want it to steadily increase. So, by tracking that number, if you have dips over time, you want to know, do I have the wrong set of investments? Am I racking up unnecessary debt? Has my earning power slowed down? Right? So we want to know what our net worth is. I usually check my net worth every 6 months because it actually shows my progress over time. One time it might be down low, sometimes it might be down high, but it's important because we're building financial confidence. We want to know where we stand, right?
Right.
So we have the savings and spending number, we have our net worth number. We also want to identify our vocational freedom. And I call it vocational because it's something that's internal to us, how much do I need to save, how to invest in the right assets for my mix, the rate at which I can withdraw from the investments that I'm making. By having vocational freedom, we identify if we have sufficient funds to do just about whatever we want. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's number three, so that we're continuing to build financial confidence right now. Number four, our investment mix. And I want us to talk a little bit about that later down in the conversation, because I feel like this is an area that we women in the Caribbean, we don't take time to learn about. And I was reading an article the other day that said that women in the US own 50% of stocks on the US stock market. So we need to get on that train. We need to get on that train. But it's important to invest in your financial literacy so that you can understand, number four, your investment mix. How much insurance coverage do you have? What investments do you have in stocks? How much cash you have? What are your entrepreneurial options? And for those of you in the region that feel that it's difficult to enter into the US stock market, there are a few brokers that you can you can log on to, and you can reach out to me. I'll share that with you. Some of them are TD Ameritrade, Interactive Brokers. There are a number of them, but I can give you some more information about that. So, Sabra, count with me. We have
Yep.
the spending and savings number, we have our net worth
Net
number,
worth.
we have our vocational freedom
Right.
position, we have our investment mix, and most importantly, that's the most important one for me, is my cash buffer plan. We need to know or have enough cash set aside that no matter what happens, we will be okay to pay our day-to-day living expenses. When we have that level of security, we can afford to sleep well at night and take risks. So out of these five numbers, I think as women, the more we know about our finances, it will put us above the rest, especially men.
Well, I don't want the men to feel that we are competing, but for sure we want our women to have that kind of financial literacy. We do have a question before we even move on to the next point. What is the formula to track net worth? Is there a special formula that you use? How can our viewers track this themselves?
Yes, it's pretty simple. So you would list out all the value of everything that you own. What is the value of your jewelry? What is the value of your car? What is the value of your house? What is the value of your investments? And subtract that from everything that you owe to your creditors, your credit card loans, your payday loans, your students, your mortgage loan. You subtract that from your assets to get the net amount. It can be positive or it can be negative, and we want to improve. If it's negative, we want to start making it positive.
Right. And you mentioned that last number, cash buffer plan. Are you going to tell us how to start making that plan? Hopefully.
Yes, I mean, I've gotten that a lot. Some people ask me, even my mother asked me, how can I save from nothing? I mean, you don't have nothing. You have to start somewhere, and it really starts by identifying where you are. So, one of the tips that I share with people is the 50/30/20 budget rule. Budgeting really will get us where we want to go. Many times we think that A budget would restrict us, but it actually gives us back the power to feel more in control of our money. So, with the 50/30/20 budget rule, you basically are telling yourself how you're spending money. When I started using that rule, I identified that my needs were like 75% of my income.
Hmm.
What the rule tells us is that we should aim in life, we should aim at any point of time that we're earning to keep our needs 50% or less. We should aim for our wants, our discretionary spending on things that we like to have, um, 30% or less of our income. And for savings, we should aim to save at least 20% of our savings. Now, before everyone wonders, like, how am I supposed to do that with the limited funds that I have? This is not a fixed rule that you have to sit down and calculate. Oh my goodness, I need to meet this. No, you tell yourself how you're spending money and you set goals. You set savings goals, you set spending goals, and over time, you look at what exactly are your needs versus your wants. It will require an honest conversation with yourself because sometimes there are things that I convince myself are a need and they're not.
Really?
So when you look at the portion between needs and wants, you tend to find extra money somewhere, something that you can sacrifice or put off just so you can get extra money to save. And to make it easier, I've developed a fun and flexible way to save $1,000 in 2022, and I like to call it Finance Focus Savings Bingo.
Right. Let's show the audience what you're talking about.
So with the savings bingo, it's totally up to you how you want to save. You roll a dice or you pick any number per week. There are 52 weeks in a year. Per week, you select a number based on how much you can save because you're not going to force yourself. You're going to look at your spending habits for the week and you're going to put a saving goal and say, okay, this week I'm going to try to save $10. And once you save that $10 at the end of the week, you cross that off and you wait until next week with another saving goal. It's fairly flexible. If you can't meet every week, that's fine. When it comes to savings, it's more about the habit and consistency of putting money aside. So you build that discipline over time so that when your income increases or you have extra money to save, it will be easier to increase it. So head on to myfinancefocus.com and read the article Savings for Beginners and check out the savings bingo.
That's a really creative one. And I think, especially for young savers, it would be a nice challenge to reach because I'm looking for the $0 you told me about, Lulu. I'm looking for the box that has $0. I know myself, I would probably try to tick off the smaller numbers first, and then at the end of the month, probably try to scratch my head and figure out how am I gonna save that $50. But again, like you said, start small. You don't have to meet every single milestone all at once. You have to,
Right.
it's a discipline. You have to discipline yourself to save. And once you start saving, then it becomes a habit. One thing I notice is that we do have a mixed audience. So we have women and girls of all different ages. So I think it would be great if we could break down our advice into categories based on where the women fall. So, for example, we do have people who are students. So, what would be your advice, your financial advice for students who are trying to achieve this financial freedom?
So, when it comes to setting goals, it depends on what stage you are in life. And whatever stage you are in life, you set that goal. So, I want to break it down in such a way that everyone gets an opportunity to get one tip that can help them on their journey. You started with students. I think this is, if you're a student right now, it's a good time to think about what really matters to you and your long term goals. I know that from the age 18, I already had a student loan. So I jumped on that wagon pretty early without even planning my future. And I hit some roadblocks along the way because I did not plan. Now, at that point in your life, you want to consider what you're prepared to sacrifice in order to reach those goals. Life doesn't happen without sacrifice. And Sabra, doctor, I think you can relate to that.
Yeah.
So, for some students, you may be living at home or you may be living away from home for your first time. And even if you're getting that support from your family, cash is generally tight. And that's something I personally went through. Some students may be working, but they would have to factor in their tuition fees, their books, while there's also less time to earn money. At that point in your life, you're also getting into debt because you have a student loan. So it's imperative that you learn to budget from that young age as a student, understand how to budget and what a budget can do for you. Write down your goals and aim to achieve them in stages.
That's a good one. I had to budget as a student. I think all students have to budget because that's a skill, a habit that you need to take with you throughout adulthood when it really starts grinding your pockets. And even now with the pandemic, students still have to make ends meet. So saving what they can a little at a time, it goes a very long way.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
said, if you have a job on campus, if you have extra funds coming from family, friends, you really have to include those things in your budget. I know things get a little different for young people when they're done with school and jumping into that career, that in between free spirit moment when they think they could splurge on any and everything. What would you say to these people?
Now, a lot of women, a lot of men, women are actually taking that path lately. You know, um, we want to explore the world and learn more about ourselves. I wish I had done that when I was like 20 something, you know. Now, at that point in time, you tend to have a carefree attitude to money and you're all concerned about fulfilling your dreams. But at that point in your life, you want to prepare for that gap here between being a student and looking for a job, becoming a professional. So you want to ensure that your plans are laid out. I always like to mention that plan, set that process, that system in place that can help you transition to help you achieve your goals. The budgeting still goes a long way. You're carefree with money now, but my advice to you is money says save me now and I'll save you later. Do not neglect the fact that you should put some money aside for a rainy day.
That's a good answer. We do have a question from one of our viewers. Do you save on what you have left after your expenses? How do you go about doing this savings thing?
Oh boy. I can tell you the number of times I've gotten that question. Thank you, Virginia, for that question. Now, I am a proponent of pay yourself first. And what do I mean by that? Tell me, when you get your salary at the end of the month, right? You have an obligation. You have to pay your debts first, yeah? You
Right.
take that out as a salary deduction because that's my obligation. But why are we not considering ourselves obligations? Why are we not considering ourselves debts? So the same way that I have that deduction going to my lender, I have a deduction automatically going to my savings account. So that
Mm,
means I don't have to scratch my head after I've done all my spending in the month and then I'm left with nothing to save. You need to make yourself a priority. Remember, I said money says, if you save me now, I'll save you later.
right.
Make it easier, automate your savings, have that money be deducted similar to a loan, similar to your social security and your taxes, because you are your obligation and you need to take care of you.
That's good. Also, we need to be honest with ourselves. If you know you're not gonna do it later in the month, do it first thing, do it right away. And like you said, have a standing deduction if that's what it takes to have that discipline to save. So we talked about students, we talked about the free-spirited people. What about when, our young people finally settle down, they are, starting their careers, they're in their professional stage of life, maybe getting married, now working, children on the way. How do you stretch those dollars at this point?
So you identify three different stages all in one, you know. But everyone has a combination of each. As a professional, we also have goals to develop family life. We either we're married or we're in relationships. As a professional, we want to look at the long-term impact on our ability to build wealth during our years. So it's at that point that that 50-30-20 rule, it's gonna come into effect even more. As a professional, without children, because there are different cases, you want to try to grow your savings rather than spend the extra income, because your goal is to have a family, your goal is to have a wedding. And we know that research says 60% of all marriages start in debt.
Hmm,
And I'm sure you can guess why.
of course.
So we want to have buffers based on our goals. As married professionals, whether we're married or we're in relationships, it's vital to communicate and ensure that we understand each other's financial goals and priorities as a couple. The topic of joint accounts tend to come up a lot in my couples coaching sessions. The couple would ask, should we have a joint account? What do we use it for? Again, I like to recommend you have your joint bank account to take care of household expenses, family expenses. But we're talking financial independence here, men and women. We want to have our own personal cash that we can use for our needs and wants. So it's okay to have that joint account, but always have your own stash of cash, because there's pros and cons to this. Now, you're a professional, you're married with kids, you're married and now you have kids. No, we know that's where the majority of all people live, right? This is when the matters get even more complicated, as you have to take responsibility for childcare, saving for your child's education, updating your medical coverage, getting life insurance. These are some things you should be focusing on if you're in that position. Research says again that you should aim to save 5% of your income towards education planning. Now, I know I'm talking a lot about research, and I like to use numbers to bring my point across. Now, that situation may not be applied to everyone, because some people's income, their needs may be like 60, 70, 80% of their income. At a point like this, how do I get insurance? How do I save? How do I pay debt? How do I get that mortgage? Like, where do I start? And I know everybody has that question. The key to that is budgeting. The key to that is budgeting. Now, there's two sides of the coin, right? We're at different stages in our lives, and I'm saying about budgeting, and maybe some people think like, but I track my expenses so much. There's so much that I can do. What else can I do? Now, there are two sides of the coin. If you cannot adjust your expenses any further, try to earn some additional income. And a lot of people is like, but I don't know that how I can earn additional income. I don't know where to start looking. You are your salesperson. Look
Right.
at what skills and talents you have and monetize them. Whether you can bake cakes, whether you can sew, whether you have a green thumb. You know, if you can't do it by yourself, you don't have the capital to start, collaborate with a friend. You bring the capital, they bring the skill. But right now, right now, having one source of income it's a little bit too close to comfort because we saw what happened in 2020 when a lot of people were laid off because of that one income. And unlike in the US where there was contributions to support them, in the region we would not have gotten a lot of all of that opportunities. So as individuals, we have our own responsibility to look out for ourselves, right? So whatever skills and talents that you have, sit down, write it down, be honest with yourself, and if you need to even figure it out even more, contact me. We'll get it out of you.
I like that you brought that up because the pandemic really, really hit some people hard just financially, and their one stream of income was taken away. A lot of people were laid off. I'm talking single people, people who are married with children, and both breadwinners laid off, and they have to make ends meet. The children still have to go to school. And one good thing I would say that came out of this pandemic was that a couple people realized some hidden talents and decided to monetize it. So that was a good thing. And if you haven't already and you've identified something that you are good at or something that could bring you extra income, I say don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Get that extra income to make not only ends meet, but to, like Luana said, just secure that financial freedom so that when you get older, and we're coming to the old age in a moment, but when you get older, that you wouldn't have to work so hard to get to, live a comfortable life. We
Yeah,
do have
all that is part of building financial confidence.
Yes, agreed. One of our viewers mentioned that they did a salary deduction to a bank and didn't take a bank card. That means a debit card or a credit card, so that they're not tempted to withdraw the money. That last stage of having a family, they realize that.
That's a good
So,
tip. She's
yeah,
someone
agree.
financially focused.
Yep. Question for you, Luana, before we move on. If you have an option to buy company shares, but the salary is limited, should you buy the shares or save your money instead? What do you think?
Well, it all depends on your goal. What are your financial goals? If you're in a position to save some money, go ahead and save. If you're in a position to invest, invest. However, you should not amass too much savings for the reason that's currently plaguing the US right now with the inflation, which is really which really decreases your purchasing power of stuff. Whether it's like 7% in the US or it's 1% in Dominica, we still would receive some sort of imported inflation. So amass a savings comfortable enough to take care of yourself. Don't put all your money into savings. You need investments. You need to invest in order to beat inflation, in order to build generational wealth. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to what your financial goals are, what your investing strategy is, and then you can know what to do. But that's what we do at Finance Focus. We help you to decide should you put all your eggs in one basket or should you split it. So send me a message and we'll help you out.
I like that. All right. So we do want to speak to a few more groups in our audience. We mentioned parents in a way. Did you have anything extra to add?
It's really taking heed of what your needs and wants are. Especially with children, that's when unexpected expenses show up all the time. So you really want to plan for unexpected expenses, especially if you're a single parent. Ensure that you have that emergency fund, you have sufficient medical coverage, you have some money aside when it comes to their education planning. But remember to take care of you. You have the responsibilities as a parent, but in order for you to be a wholesome parent, you also need to take care of you.
True, and I know it's harder, especially for the single parents. One income, having to take care of yourself and children. It is not easy,
No.
especially now in this pandemic where, like you mentioned, inflation and having to purchase more resources for the kids in school, laptops, because everything is hybrid or virtual now. It really takes a lot of discipline. I was wondering, what would you say to persons who are divorced? They had that joint account, they had those joint assets, and now maybe on their own didn't really benefit from that divorce. How would you suggest they make a start?
I mean, you're right. We all expect to live happily ever after with our partner, but many times relationship turns sour. So if you're a divorcee and you're receiving alimony, um, your circumstances will be very different because you would have a source of income that you can aim to manage, but also to as a divorcee with limited career expectations, you should aim to build up an investment portfolio or an emergency fund that is going to keep you sufficiently positioned to pursue the rest of your goals. Because after divorce, I know a lot of we women, we tend to be discouraged and our self esteem becomes inflicted, and we lose our path. But when it comes financially, we should look to our income earning power because that is what is going to carry us through our later years. We may get remarried, we may enter another dependent relationship, but for the time, look at your earning capabilities, re strategize on your financial goals, and look to see what sacrifices you may have to make, whether you're a young divorcee or an older divorcee.
That's some solid advice. It's not easy. I would hope that no one ever has to go through that. But for those
Yes.
who are going through it, who have gone through it, this is not the end of the road. People say life goes on, but you make your life as fruitful and as prosperous as you want it to be. So go ahead, get those tips, contact Luana to build your portfolio, and I'm sure that things will work out. We do have two more groups to speak about. So the retired folk, you're not
Yeah.
gonna be earning as much as you earned while you were working, for the past couple of years. How would they go about building financial freedom?
Now, remember, I shared a fact in the beginning where I say, as women, we have a third of retirement savings as men.
Hmm.
Um, this is usually because throughout our earning lives, we are the homemakers. We would maybe leave work, lose opportunities to take care of the home. Now, what's happening right now is women have a longer life expectancy than men, right? And despite the fact that more women work now, many are not focused on saving for their own needs, right? So that puts them in a position where they have limited retirement earnings. And we have women and men retiring young. I like to call them the young retirees. They still have that earning capability. They're strong, they're educated and they have that zeal to continue giving service, right? Um, as you get older, you may be in a position where you had not considered preparing for investing for retirement, right? So we have two different people. We have those who are young and can still consider preparing for retirement. I want to tell you to focus on your investment portfolio. Focus on increasing the portfolio of stocks, bonds. Look for your entrepreneurial essence to see how you can build that fund for your latter retirement years. If you're an older retiree that has just received some gratuity and you are receiving some pension and you haven't prepared for retirement, there may be still some options for you. You can visit in the US, you can visit some investment firms. Locally, you can visit the credit unions. They have some post 60 retirement plans. You can visit your insurance companies to find out what available options that they have for you. But you also want to ensure that you're avoiding speculative investments. I know sometimes, especially we as Caribbean people, we like to get quick money,
Mm.
and that tends to like make us lose everything that we have worked hard for. So, as a retiree, you're planning for retirement, you want to ensure that you set something aside that can take care of your bills, that can help you enjoy 10, 15 years after you've retired. And this is not a financial piece of recommendation, but I also want both young and senior people to take care of their health. One of the aspects that erodes our finances, especially in our senior years, are health costs. So you can imagine all your life you save up because you want to enjoy retirement, and boom, COVID, non communicable diseases hit
Mhm.
you, and that just cleans all your savings account. So ensure that you have sufficient insurance coverage and support that by taking care of your health.
Agreed. I want to reiterate what you said about the health. Well, I am biased when it comes to that. Please take care of your health. Even young people, when we are working now, make time for self care. Go to your doctor, get checked out because sometimes we work ourselves to the ground. We end up developing hypertension, diabetes at years down the road will drain our pockets. So you really want to take care of yourself while saving and whilst doing all of these things that Luana mentioned so that you can enjoy your retiree years. You want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, like my parents say. So really, what Luana is saying, do take care of your health. It is important. We have one question here. Someone is asking, what companies do you recommend for stocks and bonds? I know nothing about that, Luana.
Now, for liability purposes, I can't say what stocks and bonds that you should invest in. What I can share is how to identify good companies. So when you look at, you have an interest in a company, I want you to note that a good company does not necessarily mean that it's a good investment. What I mean by that is when you're looking at a particular company that you're interested in investing in, you need to look at the price or the cost to get that security to get into the market, as well as the company's future earning potential and its capital gain. Meaning, is it a growing company in the future? Does it have something that's going to be making it grow 10, 15, 20 years down the line? These are just some tips of how you can identify companies. Again, it depends on your investment strategy, whether you're investing for growth, whether you're investing for cash flow, like dividends, to get dividends. um, Look out for the finance focus investing course level one. It's coming up about in the next 2 to 3 months, where it will give you the basics of how to understand investing and how to look at different stocks.
All right, one more question for you before we start wrapping up. Would you advise someone to use retirement funds to invest in something else like apartments or add into a dwelling house?
Okay, so again, it depends on your financial goals and where you want to go. What is your current position? Uh, for anyone else who's inquiring questions like that, it's different for everybody. It's not a one size fit all, and that is what the financial coaching sessions at Finance Focus does. We dive into your current position to see if that investment decision is right for you based on where you are.
I like that. So for those maybe wondering what is she saying, I really want to know the answer to that question. For someone who can afford to do this, they have sufficient savings, they have all the investments lined up. Maybe that might be a wise financial decision for them at the time. Again, it requires coaching, and someone like Luana would be in the best position to tell you, what might be the best step forward. One more question. All of our viewers are perking up. If you have your home already, that means inherited, should you increase footage and go under a loan and invest into an apartment? Do you think returns will be worth it in the long term, or just stay without that additional loan?
Sounds like a lot of our viewers need to get on that financial coaching program.
Yep.
Again, what is your investment strategy? What are your goals for the next 5 to 10 years? How much debt do you have? What are the terms of that loan? Can you pay off that loan and then take on another loan? Do you want to tie up yourself in another loan? So these are the questions that we would ask ourselves before just making a decision by saying, yes, go ahead. No, you can't do that. It goes further than that.
Agreed. So we do have people have questions, and I'm happy that they are asking the questions and identifying the areas that they need to seek professional help. And I'm glad you're here to help them with that. Just to wrap up quickly because we are running out of time.
Already?
What? Yes, already. I wanted us to give the viewers some recommendations in terms of resources for further financial planning. And then we can talk about like the top things to remember as we continue to tackle our finances this year.
Resources for financial planning. What?
Financial planning, yes.
myfinancefocus.com.
Let me bring that up.
myfinancefocus.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. For those of you who have questions that you pose, there may be some tips for you that are exclusive if you sign up to the newsletter. There's a few personal finance books that I want to recommend. Grow Your Money by Bola Sekundi. There is On Your 2 Feet by Helen Baker, and I think we have the pics of the books, Sabra, I shared with you. And contact your insurance advisor if you have one. We're in January going into February, and I like to recommend that people do a financial health check. As the year has started, you identify how much debt that you have, what are the interest rates, the terms to maturity, you know how long until you pay them off. Do you have sufficient coverage if you've had a new baby, or if you're planning a new career? Do you have sufficient insurance to cover you throughout the year? What is your earning capabilities? What opportunities do you have to monetize your skills and talents? Your spouse, what is your spouse earning capabilities? Really do a financial health check, and we can get that done for you for a small fee. You can get a financial health check done. Read some of the books that I shared with you. Establish an emergency fund, because we know how Hurricane Maria would have affected some of us here in the region. Even in the US, where we have the natural disasters, it's always good to have a buffer and plan. Really plan, budget, save, pay off debt, invest. The key to successful financial planning and building generational wealth is to invest.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The books, I'm not sure for whatever reason, the images are not coming on the screen, but we can look them up if you have access to Kindle, your public library. These are some nice books that you could add to your repertoire. I especially like The Atomic Habits. I read that
Oh,
one recently.
this
That was
one.
a great book.
Viewers, If there's anything that you took from this session, there's a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. It has very little to do with financial management. However, it plays a significant role in helping us understand our habits, why we do what we do, our behaviors, and how we can create processes. So you can apply money management to that. It blew my mind. I started using some of the tips that the the writer would have shared, and it works. So you can get it on, you don't even have to pay for the book. You can go on YouTube, look Atomic Habits, James Clear, and just play that while you're driving in your car, on your way to work, exercising, cooking.
Yeah.
You won't regret it. Yep. Get that book. Get that book. Changed my life. This is Grow Your Money by Bola of Clever Girl Finance. It also helps you to understand how investing works. And look up for the investing course level 1 from Finance Focus, and On Your Own 2 Feet by Helen Baker is another good read if you really want to look into achieving financial independence.
Thank you very much for sharing all of those golden tips with us. You have said several things that I need to take into consideration for my own self. So, thank you to all of our viewers who are logged in. Thank you so much for asking all of these questions. Food for thought. And thank you so much, Miss Laura, for sharing your wisdom with us. This pandemic is not going anywhere, at least not immediately.
Not
And
immediately,
we really have to take charge of our finances. And it's going to be this pandemic versus our purse for the next couple of weeks to months.
for sure.
So we do have to make wise decisions, wise financial decisions. And I'm hoping that something said here will resonate and stay with all of our viewers. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Miss Laura's website, her Instagram page. Can you just say it again so they could hear what your at handle is?
Yeah, so go over to the website. There's a fun money personality quiz. You can find out what your money personality is for free on myfinancefocus.com. Follow the Facebook at Finance Focus, Instagram at Finance Focus. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Finance Focus channel, so that you can get video tips. I know we all love video, so look out for some great collaborations in video where you will get free financial tips. Who doesn't like free financial tips?
Emphasis on free. But thank you so much, so much. It was great having you here. And to our viewers, look out for me again next month. I will have something special again for you for another live event. This one, look out for the promo everywhere: Instagram, Facebook. Those of you on my WhatsApp subscribe list, look out for it. It will be great. And thank you so much for supporting Focus on Her. We want everyone to be well rounded individuals, and we are looking to just add value to your life. So thanks again for joining us, and have a good evening.
It's my pleasure to be here. And you focus on your finance, you focus on your health. We're all focused about around here.